Well, ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a very, very special treat today. It has been 15 months, but we are very happy to announce the return-ish of the newly named HX Hard Money Podcast. Let me first start
excited here, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Let me first start by saying, welcome, my brother Matt Saincome. How are you?
Hey, Enrique. It's good to see you. How am I? I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I had a tumultuous bit of time in between the last time we spoke on record, but my life is starting to even out. Almost to the point where I'm even going to start looking at the markets again for the first time in a long time.
I don't know what that's either very bullish or very bearish. We're going to find out. So,
I made a, sorry to cut you off. I made a trade recently. My first trade in a very long time. Plus 40% on Tesla.
Okay. Nice timing. I want to talk about that trade because we're actually publishing on that this week. We're going to talk about that. Maybe we'll kick off with Tesla. But I want to go through a couple things for here first with our audience. First off, Matt and Gabe and I want to say thank you for all the support we've gotten through the years. Just so you all know what happened, we'll give you a quick version of it. We went out and started Hard Money as sort of, I wouldn't even say a side gig, but more as an enjoyment gig back when the stock market was going crazy. And we actually went out and raised a little bit of money to go and launch the company and see if we could, grow it and all that. And then as the stock market turned over, a lot of things got more complicated. The markets turned over. Advertising wasn't easy to get. I'll also say that I think for all three of us, life kind of just happened, whether it was the stock market. I don't know how many of you know, but I got hit with a flood that cost me $1 million, things like that. So we essentially in February of 2023, without some big, great announcement, we put Hard Money on hiatus. And I'm also going to tell you, we did something that people almost never, ever do. We went back to the investors who had given us the money, and we were able to give them back, I want to say 42% of the money. Like, that's just something like giving money back in a venture deal of any kind is like unheard of. So Matt and Gabe and I, and Gabe's not going to be joining us today, but Matt's here. Matt and I have been grinding away through a whole bunch of life stuff, but we're finally at a point where we can find some time. You all know you've been watching the HXPodcast and what I've been doing with HX Research. So we're going to go from here, and we don't know how often we're going to drop it. It may be once every 10 days, once every month, once every 2 weeks. I don't know what it is. But the format's going to be this, we're going to talk a little bit about the markets, which could end up being a lot about the markets, depending on the day or the week. But then we're going to talk just about crazy entrepreneurial ideas. It could be Matt's got one that's freaking insane that we're going to talk about today. But each podcast of the HX Hard Money Podcast, we're going to spend some time talking about the markets, and then we're going to talk about an entrepreneurial idea and really explore it, and then follow up on them, because some of them I think we actually might pursue. But let's start with what was the Tesla trade? What got you involved in Tesla? Why was that? Well, when was the last time you made a trade prior to the Tesla trade?
Well, I mean, you used the term 15 months. I haven't been counting. I haven't been keeping track of time. But
it was February of 2023 was the last episode. And by the way, the Hard Money $1 Million Podcast is still up on Spotify. It's probably up on Apple and everything too, if you all want to check it out.
So I took essentially all of my money, and not essentially, I took all of my money, literally, and put it into private businesses that I had, including some that were struggling and some that were not struggling, and I had some opportunity to expand them. And so because of that, this is not financial advice, goddamn.
Yeah, this is never financial advice on this podcast with you and I. That's important.
I liquidated, all of my holdings to put them into private businesses. And so I just focused on that. And I mostly tuned out the markets. I found it to be really calming, healthy, and I think. But recently, I got in my car. I have a Tesla Model 3.
Okay.
And
how old is? I don't know the Tesla numbers.
2019. So it's the normal looking sedan. It's their popular car.
Got it.
So I got in my car one day, and it told me that it could drive me to Chick-Fil-A, which is where I was going. Now, the day before that, my car could not drive me to Chick-fil-A. I did not buy full self-driving.
First off, there's Chick-fil-A's in the liberal bastion of Oakland. I'm surprised, but anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I love Chick-fil-A. So I get my car. It says that it can drive me to Chick-fil-A if I want. And it's got all new interface. And I go, that's crazy. I didn't pay for anything. I don't have any new hardware. I don't have any new, overnight software update, but I didn't pay for it. So I say, let's test this thing out. And I hit self-drive to Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
And it was probably one of the wildest technological experiences of my entire life.
And how comfortable? Had you used self-drive before, or?
I had not. I had used like what was essentially, Elon lies a lot, so he had like marketed like an autopilot. He marketed it like a
he
cruise
elaborates. He elaborates excessively. I don't know that he lies.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. That'll help me legally. He sometimes gets excited, allegedly.
He's passionate.
Yeah. So the car used to have like a cruise control mode on it that was like kind of fancy. It could like adjust the speed and such and stay in the lane, even if the road was curvy. This mode was changing lanes, was stopping at stoplights, stuff. It on ramps. It went around a bus. It slowed down. It sped up at appropriate times. It could see every pedestrian and bike and display them to me on this screen. 5-way stops.
It couldn't. But okay, so hold on, because this is actually quite interesting. I haven't heard this, by the way. I mean, we can talk about the stock in a second. But how long ago was this?
It's probably like 60 days ago, maybe 45 days ago.
60 days ago. And
I just closed the trade a couple days ago.
Got it. But when was the last time you had used the cruise control?
I hardly ever used it because it wasn't that useful.
Got it. So it may have improved in between the time when you used it 60 days ago.
People who had paid, I think they were getting constant updates, and I would see people talking about it. But it was like $12,000 or something, and I think there might be a little bit of a legal problem where they sold it to people and they weren't able to deliver it in time or whatever.
Okay.
But so I was stunned. I was like freaking out. I was like, I don't understand what's happening. My car is driving itself. It's doing like a really good job. It can identify parking spots. I didn't let it park itself because I was freaked out. So I parked. Well,
I mean, were you fucking scared the whole time? Like,
I was a little scared. It never happened to me. So I was hovering over the wheel. But even on the first drive, maybe like 75% of the way through, I started to loosen up a little bit because I'm like, it's doing a pretty damn good job. Like, it seems pretty reasonable here. I would say it's like 98, 99% of the way there or something like that. There's probably certain things that it's not doing quite right yet, which is important in driving, right? You really want to be 100%.
Right. It's the 1% that counts.
Anyways, but this thing is like incredible. It's like when you get your hands on it, you're like, this is just an incredible piece of technology. And I had heard that the Tesla stock price was getting beat up.
Crushed.
And so I had this, I'm like, this is like, my car, in my mind, just went up in value like crazy. And I thought to myself, I hear they're going to sell this as a subscription. This is interesting to me. This is like a different than a car company, okay?
Right,
and then I looked at the stock price, and it was really beat up. So, I mean, on a relative basis, not saying that it's like a cheap stock, but just on a relative basis, it had fallen a lot.
Well, I mean, so hold on. You're talking about valuation. On an absolute basis, the stock had been fucking crushed. So the stock topped out in, we've been following it closely, topped out in July of last year at 300 and traded at the end of April at 142. So it had been cut in half in 9 months, something like that.
It was beat up. So I bought it, and then I didn't check my brokerage account for quite some time, and I heard it was doing well. And then I looked, and I was up 40%, and I hit the sell button.
Yeah, it's a fucking great trade.
I also, so I was really curious when this happened to me. What's going on? Why do I have this thing? And I looked, and that day, Elon tweeted that he was going to let it out to certain employees.
Okay.
But that if it went well, that he was going to really send it out there. And what it turned out to be was a free trial.
Okay.
And it was a free trial. I didn't opt into it, but it's just they threw it at me. And I think it's like $100 a month to get that thing.
Okay.
And I think that's a really interesting business model.
Are you gonna do it?
I don't know. I would say
I'm not trying to pin you down, and Alon's not watching. If he is, retweet this, please. But
I would say, as it gets better, and I think it is getting better, I think that they've pretty much solved it. I'm not a deep technology guy, but I would say that what I saw made me pretty convinced that they've pretty much have self-driving very close to figured out. I would say I probably would buy it if I was
it depends
a bit more.
Yeah, and what your income is and all that stuff. If you're in a place where you feel, which I know you are, but my point is, things are normal.
I like driving. I also like driving that car. It's pretty fun to drive. But it was an incredible technology. I think for long commutes or a road trip or something.
How far was the trip that you did?
It's probably about 20 minutes. I did it there and back.
Okay.
And I had one intervention. That's what they call them.
Okay. The car was drinking too much gas.
I don't know if it would have figured it out, but in Oakland, on the way to Chick-Fil-A, there's a very confusing, I guess that would be like a 6-way stop with a bunch of merged lanes and stoplights mixed with stop signs. And even I get pretty confused. And it basically just pulled up to the line and it sat there and it didn't look like it was going to do anything. I gave it a couple seconds. I said, I'll do it. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if it would have figured it out or would have risked it or whatever, but.
That's funny. I mean, it sounds like it got confused a place that a lot of people would get confused too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it's so funny that you said that because I literally, people watching this, I'm not making this shit up. This is actually what I'm about to tell you is true. We just this week in HX Daily are beginning to do a deep dive in individual popular stocks. We're going to do one a week. And I'm using what I call my quantamental approach, quantitative plus fundamental, quantamental. I didn't actually coin the phrase. And so we're publishing it this week. Check out HX Daily. It's one of our longer pieces. And basically, I went through, I didn't talk so much about why Tesla stock was up, but I certainly said what I think you should do with it now. But Matt, let me tell you what happened to Tesla stock, because I can make it very simple. As we've talked about, stocks tend to go in the direction of earnings revisions. So if you look at what happened to Meta when it got cut in half, earnings got fucking destroyed at Meta as they were going through the digital the post-COVID transition, and Zuckerberg spent $1 gajillion on the metaverse. Then what happened? He basically decided to step back and cut cost at the same time that the business stabilized and the earnings went through the roof. So, and there's a reason I'll tell you about Meta here in a second. But so Meta, for instance, earnings went from this number's crazy. In 2021, for this year, they were expected to earn $525. In December of 22, they were expected to earn $240. And now they're expected to earn $470. I think they'll actually earn the $525 they were supposed to earn. And the stock did the same thing. So what happened with Tesla is, I don't want to say it's the same, but I'll say one thing is the same. If you look at the earnings revisions for Tesla, they are just straight fucking down. A year ago, so let's go. 21, I'm going to do, I was giving the quarterly numbers on Meta, but it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. The annual number here on Tesla, in November of 22, they were supposed to earn 713. Now they're supposed to earn 250. Okay. Wow. They've been cut by 2/3. And it's basically, wow. It looks like it's just one thing, and I know there's going to be Tesla heads on there in here that are going to have all these
passionate
other
fan base.
Well, yeah, they're going to have all these other more convoluted versions of what I'm about to say. But what he's done is he's gone in and he's cut price like crazy to try to drive and protect market share and drive scale. So what happened here recently is, I want to say two things. Is the stock, first off, had a crazy oversold. Tesla in January hit an RSI of 18, and then it went even lower. In April, it hit a RSI under 30. But I think you kind of worked out all of the growth and momentum, people, and then finally there was a wisp. If you look at the earnings revision number, it's like down, down, down. Anyone who picks up the report, you can actually see it in there. It was down, down, down. And then it went up just a tad, but it was like that. That's like the stock was like a pile of dried wood, and all you needed was a little bit of a spark. And short interest, which was not large as a number of days, but on an absolute basis, short interest was at an all-time high. So I think that you had this combination of you got the tiniest positive revision, and then all these people had puked it out. And short interest was up, and the thing just exploded. I'll tell you the other reason why I think the stock was up, and no one will talk about this because they just won't see it this way, but that's fine. I think it has a lot to do with NVIDIA, and I'm going to tell you why. Is NVIDIA has absolutely fucking destroyed professional money managers. Because if you are an index money manager and you were not fully weight NVIDIA, you're fucked. You're fucked. I guarantee you've underperformed. Okay. And so I think when Tesla started to move, there were a lot of long onlys that said, "Oh my God, I can't deal with another NVIDIA. Let me just go to equal weight." So now what we basically wrote in our report is I said, look, the RSI's at 85. So like, I don't buy RSIs of 85. That's usually good in the intermediate to long term. In the near term, they usually go down. The revisions, like I'd rather buy this after revisions have stabilized and gone up for 2 or 3 months and buy it 20 or 30% higher than it's a buy and it's going back to its old highs. But here I just think you're gonna, you're likely to retrace that move. But I'm so fascinated. I am going to investigate this the self-driving and see how many other people have had this experience. Are you friends with other Tesla drivers or?
No.
Have you spoken to anyone else about the self-driving thing?
No, I started Googling it and looking on Twitter right away to see if anyone else was talking about it. But I couldn't really find it. I thought about asking my neighbor because he's got one.
Okay.
But I figured out that Elon tweet just said that he was going to roll it out to more people. And it's probably unrelated to the stock price. It was just a moment for me where I thought, wow, this does not seem like a normal car company. I know that's what all the Tesla fans have said for a long time. The stock
literally bottomed like 60 days ago.
a little piece of me thought that from a marketing perspective, when I got the update, I had heard that the stock was really beat up, and I thought that'd be a really smart move, to stop arguing about it, just show people. Show people how far you've come. Right. Man, they've come a long way. It made me think about the robot and all the things that he says. I go, well, damn, I mean, this thing, he made the car drive itself. So
Whitney and I wrote that report in 2019 about EV. And, I wrote the report and I was wrong about how quick AV rolled out. But I basically made the point, AV is autonomous vehicles for those listening. I basically made the point is that AV is just a compute problem. So it's just a giant equation. And sooner or later, we're going to get to the point where there's enough compute that it can solve the equation, like as we always do because of Moore's law and all that other stuff. So, okay. Well, I'm going to follow up on this. So let's do this. So one last thing on the markets. You doing anything else in the markets? You thinking about anything? You playing around? Maybe some Ethereum long-dated call options?
I bought a little bit of Bitcoin, just a little bit, because so I had a Mt. Gox account. Mt. Gox was a cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it back in the day.
I bought Bitcoin. Okay, so let me just frame, if I'm going to dive back into markets, how I'm thinking about it.
Sure.
I bought Bitcoin when it was $20, but I'm not incredibly wealthy.
Okay.
So I didn't build conviction in my beliefs. I saw some AI stuff relatively early on, and I bought some stocks. And I rode a little bit of that initial hype. I did okay, but I am not incredibly wealthy. I didn't. So I feel like a lot of times in my life, I failed to build convictions around things that are happening, waves that are forming.
Okay.
And Mt. Gox is one of those examples, right? So what's happening with Mt. Gox is I used Mt. Gox to buy Bitcoin and trade it and sell it. And weirdly enough, I also use this other one called like Verox to get Second Life money. This is an unimportant part of the story. But Mt. Gox is got hacked and has gone through a legal process that's been, 10 years, something really long. Yep. It's based in Japan. And just now they're unlocking the money and they're sending it back to depositors.
$8.5 billion was the number that I read that they're sending out with the Bitcoin.
I heard it was even a little higher than that, but I don't know.
Okay.
So all these people are getting this locked Bitcoin that they bought when it was really cheap. And I think the market understands that. And reasonably, people are expected to sell some. And so Bitcoin took a bit of a dive.
Yep.
And so I just snagged up just a little bit.
Okay.
Also, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm going back to something I learned in poker, which is I'm playing at stakes that don't stress me out. And I'm not trying to watch every tick. People who listen to the Hard Money podcast back in the day would remember, I was really going to the absolute limits of my bank account, my capabilities, my attention span.
I mean, can we hold on one second though? You were doing that in that account.
Right.
Like that wasn't, I mean, you started with $10,000. So that was house money kind of.
But that account swelled to a point where that, who cares which account it's in, because I think I hit a peak of like $170,000 or something on Hard Money.
I thought 160 something. I said, it's up on Spotify. I'm actually going to try to figure it out.
Yeah. So, I was at 160 and I was just, if I had a bet, I'd bet it all the fucking way. Anyways, what I learned in poker is if you go into lower stakes, so you can have more emotional regulation and bet amounts that don't matter so much, that you're able, for example, my Tesla bet where I didn't have to check it every single day and read every headline. I'm trying to do a little bit more stuff like that.
Okay. Are you getting any Mt. Gox money back?
I am not.
Okay.
And I've been through, Yahoo decided to, if you had a Yahoo email address that wasn't actively used for a period of years, they cleared out all the information inside of it.
Oh, okay. That
would have been where my Mt. Gox transactions and username and all that stuff would have been stored. That would have been my contact address. So you can actually see there's like this, I have a document and I have a trail of all the times I've tried to figure out how much was left in my Mt. Gox account. And the deep truth is, I really don't know.
Okay. This is like the guy with the hard drive in the dump in Wales or whatever, except yours is a fucking Yahoo account.
I think that I was at zero. I think that I had moved from Mt. Gox to a different exchange, which I have all these transaction histories and I understand how much I had in that exchange and all that sort of stuff. I understand where I moved that money to. I played poker on an online poker site that only allowed you to use Bitcoin with a stack of like 10 Bitcoin, which is really funny. So at the time I'm playing for like, you can see these hands.
$100 or something.
Exactly. I'm losing in today's money like $500,000 on this poker hand or whatever. So I can see all of the transactions. I have essentially lost my Mt. Gox information. But I think it was at zero. At the same time, I'm gonna be really frank with you. It could have been 15 Bitcoin, and I really wouldn't know. I also used to mine Bitcoin in college.
Okay, I remember
when
this too.
It kind of Bitcoin came out. I think in 2009 when I graduated.
I don't know. I can take a look at the Google machine.
So I was mining Bitcoin a year or two after it came out, and I'm pretty sure I threw that computer away. So that's just kind of one of these.
January 3rd, 2009. You're good. Yeah.
So I graduated high school. I went off to college. My first year of college, I'm mining Bitcoin in my dorm.
Okay.
I don't know how much Bitcoin I was earning. It was just a weird computer program that you could download. Hey, you can mine Bitcoin on your computer if you have a gaming computer. So anyways, throughout my life, I haven't built conviction over some of my beliefs and some of the things I've been involved in. So I'm trying now to do deeper research.
I think our goal is to get you an idea, which we're going to talk about in a second, to get you freaking convicted. I mean, get you conviction. So I'll tell you one last thing. I actually wrote, I want to say in May, I wrote a whole series called Bitcoin 100,000. I basically took 5 days and I went through like, I don't know if you know some of this, but like, Turkey, because of inflation, Turkish lira is now the third most transacted currency for crypto across the world, in all the world, more than the euro. It's the US dollar and the Japanese yen. So I think that
I actually know quite a bit about that. My other business, I do a lot of transactions in Turkey.
In Turkish lira.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. You don't need to tell me about the other business and whatever it traffics. But anyways, but the thing about El Salvador, which has made it their currency, I did a whole history of gold. The history of gold is fascinating. Like, we think of gold as being like the big deal for thousands of years. It's not. Like, it was second player to silver for the longest time. Like, I mean, there's just all this kind of crazy stuff.
You mean on a transaction volume basis?
Yeah, it just wasn't like gold wasn't as big a thing as we got. Like, it was big, it was valuable. People have put value on gold for thousands and thousands of years, but they probably used silver more often than they used gold. As an example.
That makes sense.
So, but,
gold you save, silver you transact on a little bit.
Well. And I put up on StockTwits the other day. I put up one simple thing. Okay, one piece of math for you. Okay, and then we're going to move on to your idea. And I'm going to get the numbers wrong. Here, let me go on to my StockTwits. This post I put up. Let's see here. I've started using StockTwits, by the way, and I really actually love StockTwits because all they do is fucking talk about stocks. So Twitter, there's a ton of talking about stocks, but on StockTwits, that's really all they talk about. Right. So, hold on one second. Let me just find this. Give me 1 second. I apologize, everyone. Okay, here it is. The market cap of gold today is 15.7 trillion. Okay. The supply of gold grows 3% per year. Okay, and that's been very consistent. It's actually been getting a little bit better. The market cap of Bitcoin is 1.25 trillion. That's like 1/13 of gold. Okay, and the annual supply growth right now of Bitcoin is 1.6%, so half of gold. But remember, there's only 6% of Bitcoin left. Right. So basically, gold is worth 12 times as much, and if I run out 3%. The gold supply doubles in, I want to say like 17 years or something. The Bitcoin supply is going up 6% and that's it. So I was like, 16 trillion and 1 trillion. I'm not saying gold should go down, but I'm saying Bitcoin should go up, So I think we're going to 100K and I think we're going there. I mean, I think next 18 months, just my own personal view. So,
I'm actually not, I don't know how much get rich potential there is left in Bitcoin, because even if it goes to 100K, that's like a 2x, and you can find that in the stock market somewhere. Yeah. But something that I really find interesting about Bitcoin, something that I really like about it and admire about it, and I think maybe is a big part of its value, is I like that it's, I believe it's the only asset that you can't confiscate. Okay. It's a non-confiscatable asset.
Is that true? I've always wondered about this because I always feel like the government can just step in and just be like, oh, no, we're taking your wallet or whatever the fuck it is.
They can't. Okay. And here's the really interesting part. There's a 16-word passphrase, I believe. And if you take this passphrase and you store it in your head, you remember these words, this gives you access to your wallet on this public ledger. And you could actually have $1 million in your head. Someone can strip search you. Someone could ask you about all your assets. You could walk across country lines. You could do whatever you want. You have your asset. No one can take it from you. They can torture you. They can kidnap you and torture you, but they can't just send you a letter in the mail saying, hey, by the way, you've got some debts. We're taking this asset. Or by the way, we've decided people like you don't deserve to have these assets, whatever.
But I think the thing that we learned is do not email it to yourself on a Yahoo account. That's the most important. Okay, so let's.
This is a good point. Because our friend, who has a lot of Bitcoin in one form or another, the phrase that he said to me is, "Being your own bank is kind of a stupid idea." And this is a guy who's got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and his point was, you can lose it. right? Being a bank is a great service. They store your money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying though is it has a purpose. And that's an interesting, something that is weird when you buy a home, you think, oh, this is my home. Kinda. You're going to pay property taxes. If you don't pay them, there's going to be a lien. They're going to come. They're going to take it.
Take it home.
You're basically renting from the government. Everything's kind of like that. They're going to come and take whatever they want. And the government has,
and all the land belonged to the natives before that, anyways. So, I can say that as 12% Pueblo Indian, but yeah.
So people come and take your stuff. That's part of history. And they came and took your gold as well in the U.S. They passed some law and they walked around every neighborhood. They said, "Give us all your gold. We want your gold." It's interesting as like a technological advancement to have something that they can't take from you. Yep. So I like Bitcoin for that reason.
I did not know that was true. I had thought it might be, but I wasn't sure. And so I had never gone out publicly with it because I just know there's going to be some group of fucking nerds that'd be like, well, technically.
Well, you want to know what the nerds would say?
You're one of those nerds. So now I feel comfortable going out and talking about it because if you want to get
into the details, you should say it's the only non-confiscatable asset that I know of right now. Quantum computing in the future does provide some potential to maybe change that calculation.
Meaning it could make it confiscatable, or it can make other
break
assets.
the encryption.
Got it. Okay.
Quantum computing has this really weird potential to just make all encryption.
Got it.
Nothing.
Okay. So let's go here. So this is what we're going to do. Like I said, the new HX Hard Money podcast. We're going to spend half the time talking about the markets. I mean, fuck, we just talked about Tesla and Bitcoin. How cliche can we be? Okay.
If you look at me off the streets, you'd be like, what's Matt thinking about?
I was like, Tesla, Bitcoin, great. Thanks, guys. Yeah. I thought we had some interesting thoughts. I don't know. But we're going to talk each week. We're going to talk about a business idea. And some weeks we may just revisit the business. I've got a fucking business idea I'm dying to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about it today because you jumped in first and you said you want to talk about monk fruit. What the fuck is monk fruit? Why does anyone care? Why do you care? Tell us a story. And I'm looking as you're talking about it, and it's actually called lo hang guo. Is the proper term. So tell us about monk fruit. I'm gonna be looking at the Google machine while you talk about it.
Yeah, you let me know if I make any mistakes here, because So I gotta be honest with you. Big reason why I'm here talking with you today is because no one else will talk to me anymore about monk fruit. That's how much
they're sick of your monk fruit story.
I'm ruining parties and shit. I literally went to a 4th of July party and I was ruining it by talking about monk fruit.
Can I tell you that the fruit themselves? They're really fucking ugly. Like the insides are kind of gross looking. Like I'm just looking at the images.
So here's the thing about monk fruit. Monk fruit extract creates a natural sweetener that tastes as good as sugar. I would say very close to a 1-to-1 to sugar, with a little bit of a overly fruity aftertaste that some people don't like. But let's just, for purposes of argument, say we are very close to this thing tastes exactly like sugar.
Okay.
But your body doesn't metabolize it in the same way that it metabolizes sugar. It doesn't change the blood sugar levels in your body. So this is the
glycemic index. You're saying it's a low glycemic index sweetener?
Maybe. Okay.
Okay.
So here's what I know. People can eat monk fruit extract, monk fruit sugar, some people call it. Even if you're diabetic, it won't change anything about your blood sugar. You won't have to worry about your insulin. If you're on a keto diet, like I've been for a solid 12 days, you can eat monk fruit.
I thought you were going to say like 12 months or 12 years or something. So
you can eat as much monk fruit extract as you want, and you're not breaking ketosis. You're not ingesting sugar, but it tastes really damn good. It tastes like you can make candy out of it. So you can make. I ordered some chocolate, but I've eaten some monk fruit caramel. I've eaten some monk fruit candied almonds. It's really good stuff. It tastes great. So monk fruit is like this, in my view, this kind of incredible thing that can allow people to have consequence-free treats. Here's some of the problems.
Well, can I ask you a question? Hold on one second, though. Let's talk about consequence-free, because I know actually a lot about nutrition. That's how I get this body. Okay. And I know a lot about glycemic indexes, because I actually do a whole foods diet where I focus on grams of fiber and grams of protein, because both of those are inherently low glycemic index, and low glycemic index foods also are more filling. And ultimately, nutrition, I'm not talking about health, but I'm talking about weight here in particular, is really just calories in, calories out. Okay. There's some element of the quality of the calories and how it burns, but really, if you burn 2,000 and you take in 1,000, you're going to lose weight. We can talk about muscle, etc. But so the glycemic index is interesting for 3 reasons. Number one, high glycemic index foods are more likely to cause diabetes. Just think of it as an engine where you're squirting kerosene into the engine. It's going not good for the engine. Right. Number 2, actually, I'll just say 2 reasons why low glycemic index is better. Number 2 is that high glycemic foods, because the engine goes up and down, leave you wanting more very quickly. So you eat more calories. So 2 questions, though, is the monk fruit sweetener, it's low glycemic index, but it's still the same amount of calories. And then is it just that it keeps you, because it digests slower, you want to eat less, so to speak? Or
that's an interesting question that I don't entirely know the answer to. I have not been on a diet where I am deeply watching my calorie intake. I'm rather mostly focusing on eliminating bread, soda, sugar. That's carbs, right?
Yep.
But I just got fascinated by this thing. So what I found out, and maybe the calorie question is likely a very good question, because I bet you that changes some of its potential.
Well, no, I suspect if it tastes like sugar, I mean, I suspect, and I'm going to look, I suspect it just is the same caloric caloric density and the same caloric count as sugar. It just says Google says you digest it slower.
Google says monk fruit sweeteners contain 0 calories per serving and do not cause weight gain. In fact, the research has shown low or no calorie sweeteners such as monk fruit in place of regular sugars can help you lower your total daily calorie intake.
Does monk fruit sweetener have calories? You're saying it has no calories?
A monk fruit sweetener has several benefits when compared to sugar. 0 calories. Monk fruit sugar contains no calories.
I mean, I hate this. It says it on the AI piece, and I always ignore the AI piece and read the Google piece below, because there's a third of the time the AI piece is just like totally full of shit.
This says 0 calories, 0 carbohydrates, 0 sodium, and 0 fat, but taste just like sugar.
Wow.
You got to try this stuff, okay?
Okay.
So,
well, I'm going to try it. You know what I'm going to try it? I'm going to try it with maybe baking. That I feel, I like baked goods.
I thought about that. Does it have the same consistency? Is it able to do the same things at certain temperatures?
I Googled that too. Can you use monk fruit in baking? And it actually says, I'll read the stupid AI version. Monk fruit sweeteners can be used in baked goods because they are heat stable and have a similar consistency to granulated sugar. But it does affect volume and texture. Anyways, go ahead.
Okay, so here's the thing about monk fruit. It's only grown, I believe, in certain mountainous regions of southern China is where they can get it to grow.
Are they putting microchips in it?
They are kind of controlling the export of it a bit and controlling the industry a bit. People have attempted to grow it in the U.S. and failed. I'm very curious about this, so I've done a lot of Googling, and I found one startup who's trying to use surrogate crops to grow monk fruit in the U.S., some form of technology. Again, I'm not a scientist, but basically you can get a crop like a tomato to have to live in certain habitats and then grow a different fruit like inside of it. Well, basically what I understood that they were trying to do.
Can I tell you a quick story? There was one time I had a surgery. What was the surgery? I had an angiogram because they thought I had a brain aneurysm or whatever, and so they had to go into like my aortic artery and pump silver dye in my head. Fucked me up for a good couple weeks. Yeah, it was crazy shit. Anyways, I'll tell you another story. Remind me next week. I'll tell you another story about the guy who was giving me the anesthesia. Is this Indian guy with a very prototypical Indian voice. I guess I'm telling the story now. And he reads. So I'd never had a major surgery. So it basically on the thing says, "What drugs have you done?" And like I'm not a big drug guy, but I don't know. I'd gone to college. I'd done a few things. I put all the I put a couple things down. Nothing crazy. And he's like, "We're in a room. I'm naked on the table. There are 14 people in the room." He goes, "Oh, I see you've tried ecstasy." And I'm sorry, I'm not trying. I swear to God, he spoke like this. And I'm just like, "Yeah." He goes, "How was it?" I'm like, "Good." He's like, "Is it like this?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't really feel comfortable talking about doing ecstasy in this room."
He's like, "You got any?"
Exactly.
Could you hook me up? I'm sick of my doctor job, by the way.
After the surgery, I was so by the way, this was 20 years ago. I guarantee you that guy's making his own ketamine and ecstasy now. There's no doubt about it. So, I for whatever reason, I became interested in the spice islands. Like because spice islands are so fascinating that most of the spices that we know originally came from tiny fucking islands, like one or two islands, like in the entire fucking world. So like there were just a few islands, like I don't know, like peppermint, black pepper, like all these different spices. Like literally there was one island in the middle of the Pacific that would make the spice.
Okay, so you get it.
It took several hundred years for them to figure out. Now this is today, not then, but it took several hundred years. And so the Portuguese, the Portuguese and the Dutch, who were just dirty motherfuckers. I mean, they were nasty, mean guys. Right. They dominated these islands, and it was a huge trade. So I understand the transplantation is not as easy as it.
It's not easy, but you do also understand there's a historical context for a product that has some form of geographical limitation, that eventually the demand is so high that the limitation is broken. Okay. And I think technology has come a long way. There's this startup. Here's my information. This startup raised $20 million in a Series A, and then it raised a $20 million extension. And the founder said that it wasn't a down round, so probably about at the same. To me, that means they were able to show in this environment where fundraising hasn't been incredibly easy over the last couple of years. It means they were able to show like enough progress on the potential for them to grow monk fruit.
What's the name of the company? I'm going to put venture-backed monk fruit company.
ELO
Life Systems. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So you can see there he talks about Trojan horsing the fruit, and you can see that he talks about the idea that it wasn't a down round. And to me, I'm thinking the guy must have presented enough scientific information to his investors, who I think one of them might have been Doyle, or what's that big agricultural company, pineapples?
Dole.
Dole.
Dole. Yeah.
Dole. I think he must be presenting enough information to them that they must say, this is a relatively good bet still at some point. Okay. Long way of saying, to me, I think there's some form of an indication here that perhaps in the future, however many years from now, similar to when I was buying Bitcoin and I thought, oh, that's interesting, but I didn't build any conviction around it. I'm kind of thinking maybe the candy industry, the chocolate industry, all these things are going to use this new product at some point in the future. There's some percentage chance, let's just say it's a 1% to 3% chance that that's what's going to happen over the next 25 years or something like that. So what I want to do basically is, rather than like a business idea, really, I want to continue to investigate it, to figure out and build conviction around it, and decide one way or another whether or not I think if there's a potential for it to happen. And then if I have that conviction, I want to begin to place bets. I don't quite think I would build a business around it. I think it might be one of those things where if it happens, similar to AI, everyone thought that people are going to build these great AI businesses, and I'm sure many people will, but actually a lot of the benefits went over to the biggest companies, right? They get their hands on it one way or another. And I kind of think that, just everyone, like Hershey's, for example, what if Hershey's could market their product as it's not even bad for you? What would that mean for chocolate?
Yeah. Well, I have a story about that in a second, but I'm in Crunchbase here, and Elo Life Holdings, according to Crunchbase, has actually raised $56.5 million in 3 separate rounds. The company was founded back in 2006. They've been raising the rounds recently. There was one in January of 24, one in February 2023. It looks like the lead investor is Novo Holdings, which I think might be related to Novo Nordisk.
Interesting.
Just hold on one second. Does Novo Nordisk, and you know who Novo Nordisk is, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there could be, Novo Holdings is the controlling shareholder of Novo Nordisk and Novozymes. So, this is actually something came out of this.
They think it might, have some potential for the pharmaceutical, like the general
like
health of a population.
Ozempic. Yeah,
Ozempic.
Yeah, like this is very interesting.
Actually, you know what, Enrique? Wouldn't those guys want? Wouldn't they want it not to happen?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that what Novo is staking out. Look, they're trying to fight diabetes, right? And so let me give you 2 ways. So the way that Ozempic works, and
at the same time, it's a big revenue stream for them.
Well, no. But hold on. The way Ozempic works is it's basically it's an inhibitor. So the pleasure chemicals that you would generate from eating something sweet are inhibited from entering in your body, so you just don't. So they use this in narcotics too. So there's something called naltrexone that they use for drug and alcohol, okay? And what it does is normally when you have a drink or you do drugs, all these pleasure chemicals flood your brain. It basically acts as an inhibitor that stops those pleasure chemicals from entering your brain. And so you have a drink, you have 2, and you're just kind of like, okay, I just had 2 drinks. I'm not really drunk. Like I'm not really. But anyway, I know you're not a drinker. But but drinkers will understand that it's a lot of it. It's like, well, you have 1, you have 2, you have 3. Now you're ready to have 30 kind of thing. It's like it's like the old alcoholic saying is, if I have 1, I have 20. Is kind of the thing.
Ozempic basically stops you from having all of those sweets.
Ozempic is the food version of that, okay? Right. Which is how they fight diabetes, is because it's doing that. But to a certain extent, if you had a sweetener that is still satisfying but is 0 calorie and is 0 glycemic index or no glycemic index impact, it also would help diabetes, and maybe
it would help diabetes. Right?
It could be a substitute for Ozempic in some ways, because then you would feel satiated, perhaps.
Right. Eat as much of this monk fruit cotton candy as you want.
Got it. Okay, so this is an idea that's not necessarily you're going to start a business, but I think we just found something, by the way, that there is an unknown story about Novo Nordisk about monk fruit. Are there any other companies out there like monk fruit?
There's one called the Monk Fruit Company that had all these weird pages that I didn't quite It was like they're like
I see
acting like they used to be public.
Monk Fruit Corp.
Yeah, Monk Fruit Corp. They were acting like they were a public company, but I couldn't find the ticker. Then there's a couple publicly traded companies that are natural sweetener companies that include the trade of monk fruit. I don't think that's like a pure play on monk fruit. There's one out of Canada that does,
of course, there's one out of Canada. That's how it goes.
There's one tiny market cap out of Canada that said they're a natural fruit sweetener company that involves monk fruit, but it seemed like they were probably like a wholesaler or something like that. So basically what I want to do is I want to try to spend some time researching it, see if I can build some conviction around it, then understand what part of the ecosystem would even be the part that makes money. I'm not so sure it's the guy who would end up selling monk fruit. I really don't know if that would be it might be the guy who ends up selling the candy, right? So I have to spend some time figuring it out and talking to some people. So that's kind of been on my to-do list of just
So will you do me a favor? Will you find me, I want to buy some monk fruit sweetener.
I'll send some to your house.
Do I just buy the one called monk fruit in the raw? I feel like that's the one that looks, because there's one here that says it has erythritol, which doesn't sound good.
I think in the raw is good. And then I can also send you the links to a couple like monk fruit products.
Okay.
Like just a couple candies and stuff that I've tried.
Okay.
And
well, here, send me a care package. Like I'll send you my address.
Some people listening to this might know a brand that became pretty popular. It was a DTC brand called Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon did a lot of advertising on podcast, and I'm pretty sure their whole thing is that they use monk fruit.
It's a cereal. It's a cereal, and they say that it talks about monk fruit.
Maybe some of it is monk fruit. They have some monk fruit varieties, but anyways, there's this brand of D2C companies that are popping up where they're selling these products. Like these are Oreos, but they use monk fruit. This is the sugary cereal you like, but it's monk fruit.
So your goal, and then I got a story for you that's somewhat related. Your goal here is you want to dive into monk fruit, which you think could be a big trend. Novo Nordisk is there. And across the next 12 months, you're going to try to figure out what's the best way to monetize this insight. Is that kind of
exactly. And I'm going to see if it's a correct insight. And then I'm going to try to carefully plan some long-term bets if I feel like it's appropriate.
Okay. Well, I think I want you to get a little bit further along, and then we will invite the CEO of ELO Life Systems. Not that we'll get them, but you never fucking know. Like, we'll invite the CEO of ELO Life Systems. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story, okay?
Sure.
Many years ago, Procter & Gamble was working with these complex water molecules. They were doing different research and all this stuff. And they basically then began experimenting with lipids and fat molecules. And what they figured out is they could attach... I'm going to get the science wrong, so please no one bust my balls about that. But like, they figured that they could take a fat molecule and they could attach another molecule to it such that it wouldn't be digestible. It would basically flow through your body. And they launched it in the mid-1990s to great fanfare as a product called Olestra. Do you remember Olestra? Do you remember this story? Okay, you're too young. So Olestra came out and said, we're going to do fat-free Doritos and fat-free Pringles and all this. And they came out with this huge thing. Mm-hmm. And then right afterwards, there were all these stories got in the press that people were eating Olestra and it was running right through them, and they were suffering from what they called anal leakage, okay? Oh. And the minute you had the words anal leakage attached to your product in the press, let's just say it didn't go very well. But at the time, this is right when I started my career as a stock person. I was actually I worked with a bunch of guys who were old food analysts, just knew fucking everyone. They knew everything about the food, Hershey's, all that stuff. We were very interested, and I was very excited. I was like, wow, if you could get the taste of fat, but not the calories or the glycemic index, that's great. And this was true at the time, and it still is. It turns out that the anal leakage in the tests was happening. I can say that word on the podcast because it was an official term. So, okay, the anal leakage only happened after someone ate like 3 bags in an hour. So there was a base case too that they looked at the anal leakage of people who ate 3 cans of Pringles, normal Pringles in an hour, and ate 3 cans of Olestra Pringles. Guess what? The anal leakage was about the same. You just don't eat 3 cans of fucking Pringles. Yeah. And so Olestra was gone. It was totally not out of the market. Olestra is actually back in the market, and it now exists. They don't call it Olestra.
What do they call it?
What's it called now? It's called Olean. And it's basically it's in a bunch of Frito-Lay's things, and but it never took off because, and it's a shame. It's a shame because I think I should actually see if I could find, because the great idea with Olestra is what if you could actually get the Like I use Pam cooking spray. I use the olive oil one. I don't use a lot. Like it's not like I'm using so much oil. But the Olestra, but coming to a story, monk fruit I don't think is going to have anal leakage. But Olestra is an example of a product like this that had all this promise and then just kind of didn't pan out for whatever reason.
I like the idea that the American consumer is such an animal that you can get these great inventions and they'll find a way to fuck it up.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh, monk fruit? Oh, I can have candy now? Okay, so I've taken 3 bathtubs worth of chocolate syrup with monk fruit in it, and I've been eating that almost consistently every day. I don't feel very good, right?
That's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. Someone's going to be like, yeah, man, I ate three gallons of it in 40 minutes, and I got the shits. Monk fruit's not good for you. Fucking Chinese.
This whole new set of problems. We'll have to create a new Ozempic because the monk fruit epidemic will be so extreme.
Well, the monk fruit epidemic. We never got to the Olestra epidemic, but it's out there. I'm actually going to get some. You know what? I'm going to order some monk fruit, and I'm going to get some Olestra cooking oil. I'm going to have a fucking party, dude. That's what I'm going to do this coming weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be
the no glycemic index party. Yeah. Olestra and monk fruit. I'm going to use them together. Actually, I'm going to bake cookies. I'm not fucking with you, okay? I don't know if I'll have it ready, but I am going to make some Olestra and monk fruit cookies, and I'm going to send them to you. Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely consequence-free cookies.
Okay, so we're I don't know what we're going to do in the next episode. Hopefully soon. I'm down as often as you are. But my idea, I'm just gonna tease it here. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. So let's take monk fruit, and I'm gonna bake some cookies. You're going to continue to do some research, and we're going to come back with some more conversation about it. That's idea number 1. I know you've got 2 or 3 more ideas, but we get to do mine next. But I'm just going to say what it is, okay? So to tease people for the next episode, I want to do vending machines that sell fucking gold. So instead of buying a fucking Diet Coke or some Olestra Doritos, you go up, you put your credit card in, or you can use your Bitcoin, whatever you want, and you get some gold. So you can just be like I got Bitcoin, man. Hey, man, I got some gold. You want to swap gold?
Enrique, quick question. You ever see those videos of the guy with the pickup truck tied to an ATM machine, ripping it out of a 7-Eleven?
Yeah, but come on. ATM machines are full
of gold.
No,
7-Eleven.
Yeah, you do. Hold on.
I'm not starting that vending machine business in Oakland.
I've got all this thought out. I've got it all thought out. We're going to talk about it next week. So, Matt, great to see you, brother. Yeah, everyone, I thank you for joining us. The HX Hard Money Podcast. Follow Matt on Twitter. He's actually there a little bit. You know where we are, HX Research. We got some more things in the works. Maybe some more things with Matt too. It's great to have you back. And, look, I think this is some of the most educational stuff that folks are going to... I think people learned a lot about Tesla, a lot about Bitcoin, a lot about monk fruit, and a little about anal leakage. So that's the most you can ask for in any podcast, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
So, cool.
All right, well, it's great to see you, Enrique.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Later.